What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video for my 9.0.5 Ret Paladin PvP guide. I'm going to be updating, well I guess my guide from December officially, but during the past few months I've put out random put together guides like how to burst, what are the best talents, but I'm going to compile it all together in this video here and explain why I take these talents and why I do the damage the way I do, and I'll also leave a link in the description to my add-ons and how to set them up. So let's get into the talents first. So in 9.0.5, one of the biggest changes was our legendary final verdict got a buff, and a lot of people have been asking if we should be running righteous verdict over zeal now, and the answer is no. And the reasoning why is righteous verdict will only buff the next Templar's verdict that you do after you do your first Templar's verdict in your burst go. It only buffs it by 10%, and you're not getting too much value out of this in terms of additional damage. So say you have a 15,000 Templar's verdict, we can hit much harder than 15,000 now, and you buff it with the righteous verdict, you're only going to gain like 1.5k damage, as opposed to an auto attack, which is roughly about 1,500 as well. Zeal provides you with more holy power because it's going to proc your Blade of Wrath more, because the proc on Art of War is now based on auto attacks. The damage itself is not that great, but you auto attack faster, it's more consistent damage, and it honestly adds a little bit more to your burst because your auto is going to be hitting a little bit faster. Whereas a lot of the times this buff, it only lasts for 6 seconds and it's going to drop. Say if you Templar's Verdict, you get another Templar's Verdict, so that's a buffed righteous verdict, and then after that your next 3 holy power needs to go to Word of Glory. You're only gaining the benefit of 10% damage increase throughout that entire go, and it's likely that your go window is going to expire, within 3 to 4 Templar's Verdicts. After that, we have the next row here. This row is pretty much unchanged all the time. It's just Blade of Wrath. Blade of Wrath gives you more holy power. It does a little bit more damage on your procs. It's a great talent overall. I would never run Fires of Justice. Sometimes in RBGs, it is fun to mess around with Empyrean Power, but even then, I still just take Blade of Wrath 99% of the time because it's the most consistent. After this, we actually have a decent amount of choices in this row right here. Fist of Justice default increases the amount of times that you can get stuns off. Awesome. Repentance is a little... I run this less often this expansion than I did BFA because the games are so fast. You don't really have time to land that Repentance. However, Blinding Light I take quite often, especially in 2v2 Arena. You can do your entire burst go if you're Kyrian with Final Verdict into a Blinding Light and follow it with a Hammer of Justice. So you can either kill them in a Blinding Light because this does not break unholy damage, or you can force a trinket and then stun. I have a video, I'll leave a link in the description on how to use Blinding Light. After that, this row here, I default into Unbreakable Spirit. In rated BGs, sometimes I run Cavalier. And then in arenas against physical damage dealers such as Warriors, Feral Druids, Windwalker Monks, Hunters, specifically BM and MM, not so much Survival, I will run Eye for an Eye. And the reason you don't take Eye for an Eye too much against Survival is because they are, a lot of their damage is magic, their bombs, their Serpent Sting. You're not going to get too much value out of that, so I'd rather just stick with Unbreakable Spirit. So primarily physical damage dealers, you see them, you will take Eye for an Eye, even if it is just like Warrior, Mage. I still would take this, I believe, a lot of the time because Warriors have such crazy damage. The only thing that I would consider not running it against sometimes is honestly maybe a Shadow Priest Warrior, because having the shortened cooldown on Shield of Vengeance for the mind games is really important. And Warriors do deal shadow damage with Condemn, so it's not going to get all their damage. The next row we have here, I have primarily swapped to Seraphim about 90% of the time. Seraphim's really good in 3s and 2s in rated BGs. An instance where I would run Divine Purpose rather than Seraphim is in 2v2 against Rogue Mage and sometimes in 3s against Rogue Mage as well. A lot of the times, if I was running Ret Paladin Warrior in 3s, I would still take Seraphim, but I'm sorry, I would take Divine Purpose, but if I'm running Cupid Cleave against Rogue Mage, the Hunter can stop a lot of the Rogue Mage go, so I'll run Seraphim. The next row here, default Healing Hands, Just Cause Vengeance. Never run this. I did do some Selfless Healer testing since the hotfix nerfs to Healing Hands, and it's okay, but still, Healing Hands is just better. And then on the last tier, we have here Final Reckoning or Sanctified Wrath. A lot of the times, if you're cleaving with a warrior, you can take either one of these talents, but if you're running Cupid Cleave, which is Ret Paladin, Hunter, Healer, Final Reckoning 100%, so you can control when you are doing your go, so you don't break a trap, for instance. I know some paladins run Sanctified Wrath. Vanguards run Sanctified Wrath. He says it's his preference, but my personal preference is Final Reckoning, and a lot of other the higher reds also run Final Reckoning default. So it's up to you guys. If you don't like the feel Final Reckoning, it's perfectly fine if you're just playing cleaves to run Sanctified Wrath. Else, I would definitely recommend running Final Reckoning for that one-shot burst go. Now let's go over the PvP talents. As you can see here, I defaulted all the damage talents. This is just something that I would run in a battleground or rated battleground. It's just the maximum damage you can get out is right here. Now, this does change quite frequently, actually, when you're playing 3s, and it depends on the comp that you're fighting. So, if I was defaulting into my talents here in 3s, this would be it, Blessing of Sanctuary or Reckoning, and then Vengeance Aura. And I might trade out Vengeance Aura against something like TSG or another cleave for Lawbringer. Just more damage, and something like a Turbo or TSG doesn't have as much CC as Spell Cleaves, or even something like Warrior Mage, where you're going to be able to get a lot of value out of Vengeance Aura. But if you are fighting a Warrior Spellcaster X or another Spell Cleave, then Vengeance Aura is probably your go-to move right here along with Aura Reckoning. I pretty much never, ever untalent Aura Reckoning against stuff like Boomkin or someone that can root silence your healer, or you need an extra freedom. It is perfectly fine to take something like this setup, Unbound Freedom, Blessing of Sanctuary, or Reckoning. But most matchups, you are fine running something like Blessing of Sanctuary or Reckoning Vengeance Aura / Lawbringer. It's up to you. All right, let's go over the stat priority now. So, as a Ret Paladin, your #1 job is to kill people in as little global cooldowns as possible. And what a global cooldown is, in its default 1.5 seconds. It's just, cast Blade of Wrath, that's a global, something like that. So your biggest 2 global burst is set up with all holy damage. So you benefit massively from having a higher mastery and a high versatility. Due to the defensive benefit, or the duo benefit of versatility, increasing your damage healing and your damage reduction, it's very important to prioritize versatility. After that, I prioritized mastery because it helps your biggest burst in as fewer globals as possible, and then haste, and then crit. You get as much crit as you need through Seraphim and Wings. Baseline Seraphim will increase your crit by 8% of your base crit, but however, you gain 20% crit through Avenging Wrath. So a lot of that crit you get from your abilities, you don't need to build it. In PvE, haste is very important because you want to get as many globals out as possible. However, in PvP, you want those globals to be as bursty as possible. So that is why we prioritize mastery as much as possible. However, if you go and look at some stat websites, a lot of the times the stat weights for Ret are very similar. So as long as you're prioritizing versatility, you should be good to go, right? And it's only when you get to the higher gear levels that you can pick and choose what pieces you really want. See, I have some haste pieces here. And unfortunately, the burst badge right here, the ferocity, is crit. Now, I would recommend running either the badge of ferocity or the gladiator's, what is it called? Emblem? Yeah, the emblem, one or the other. The proc trinket, even though it gives haste, I wouldn't recommend running, because what you're doing is you're killing in these 1-minute CD windows your divine toll right here and your final reckoning along with your seraphim, and the badge just lines up perfectly with that. Whereas, it's possible you won't have a proc when you need one. And this primary stat increase by 204 is actually very noticeable when you have it up. And then the other trinket I would run right here is Emblem, and it is okay to macro this together with your Shield of Vengeance. You know, you use this first, and then your Shield of Vengeance. It's going to give you a larger shield. You can also bind them separately, which is what I do, and you can use it as an additional defensive cooldown. 18k HP is, oh, I'm sorry, 15k. Yeah, it's roughly 16k HP. It is no small number. It is definitely a nice big heal, but I don't always run this. I much prefer to do big damage. All right, and now let's go over the legendaries while we're talking about gear right here. If you are a new Ret Paladin and you're just getting into, you know, your max level content, I recommend building a Final Verdict first. This is what you're going to run in 90% of matchups in 2v2, in 3v3, in rated BGs. It just makes your Templar's Verdict deal massive damage and have a 10-yard range and a small proc chance on Hammer of Wrath, but we don't really care that much about that Hammer of Wrath proc. It doesn't do that much damage. We're here for the damage increase and the range increase. Not to mention, when you are disarmed, you can still use your Final Verdict. So that makes this legendary prime for PvP and fighting warriors and windwalkers especially. Sometimes you will fight spell cleaves. And what a lot of Ret Paladins have been doing recently is just foregoing the Prot Legendary in general. But you can also take Reign of Endless Kings. And what this will do is it will provide you with an additional defensive proc. It can be life-saving. Sometimes if you have a Mind Games, it's really, you know, you're fighting a Shadow Priest and they Mind Games you on it. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. It's not terrible, and it is still used in some Spellcleave matchups. However, the way I've been playing recently, and a lot of the other top rets have been playing recently, are it's just Final Verdict every single game, and you either win instantly or in the first, you know, 1 or 2 resets on your goes, or you're going to lose in dampening anyway as a paladin. So it's kind of like a guardian, a prot legendary is either preventing you from losing instantly against another cleave if you're not comfortable living, or it is extending your loss over you know, a period of 5 minutes or so, however long your healer's mana lasts. But yeah, Ret Paladins are much better at killing before dampening. The farther into dampening you go, the less your heals are going to be effective, and you know, you want to have as much damage as possible to end those games before dampening. That is why Final Verdict is better than Guardian as of now. All right, I'm going to go over the Soulbind conduits now. For Kyrian Ret in particular, the best covenant that you can run is definitely Kyrian. It provides the most burst damage. It lines up very well with your goes on your Final Reckoning and your wings. I did talk in the past about running Necrolord, but as the meta has progressed, Kyrian is still superior to Necrolord, even though Necrolord has better defensive bonuses. So if you are Kyrian Ret, you're going to run Pelagos. You're going to, you know, take the combat meditation. Your potency conduits are going to look something like this. You're going to take Templar's Vindication if you're running Final Verdict, or you're going to take Royal Decree up here if you are running Guardian Legendary, the Reign of Endless Kings. And the next mandatory conduit, this is something I never change out, is Shielding Words right here. It just gives you bonus healing on your Word of Glory. And then the next conduit we have down here is Ring and Clarity. And although it has been nerfed, and some paladins say, you know, maybe you should have your Templar's Vindication down here and Ring and Clarity up here, so you can swap between Ringing and Templar's Vindication. I actually disagree. I still think Ring and Clarity, if you get your triple proc and any of them crit, it does incredible damage. You can still get 20 to 30k Divine Tolls with all your cooldowns, your goes, your full mastery, full versatility. Words, sorry, they're hard. But yeah, guys, Ring and Clarity still does incredible damage. Next, we have either Divine Call or Echoing Blessings. Now, I have a 226 Echoing Blessings, which is why I run it here over something like a, where is it here? Over a Light's Barding. But if you don't like the Echoing Blessings, Light's Barding is perfectly fine. The reason I run Echoing Blessing most of the time is because it provides a slight decrease on damage when you sacrifice someone, when you bop someone. It's going to help a decent amount right there. Like, you know, that's That's almost a mini shield wall. Not really, but you know, it is what it is. And the freedom increase is kind of nice. You can tell I'm going to right click the freedom off, and we get a 8-second 8% movement speed increase. It can be nice when trying to catch up to people who have their speed gems, or maybe a survival hunter who's running a cunning pet that gets a little bit increased move speed. So it does help out a little bit. But if you are completely sold on lights barding, you have a nice juicy lights barding, and you want to run faster for longer, you know, there you go, run a lights barding. Else, Echoing Blessings, in my opinion, takes the cake. And then down here we have Let Go of the Past. It's been nerfed. However, you know, it's still, it's actually, until quite recently, it was increasing the damage you take by spells by 3%, which is hilarious because no one caught that bug for the entire time since December when they reworked Let Go of the Past. So, it is officially decreasing the damage you take by 3% as of a few weeks ago. So don't worry about taking this conduit as Pelagos now. It works. Alright, next thing we will go over is the damage rotation. I'm just going to go over it very fast. I will leave a link in the description on how to burst in, or I guess a more in-depth look at it. But as a Ret Paladin, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're building your holy power, you're keeping your spenders on cooldown while never overcapping holy power. And what overcapping means is, say I have 4 holy power, my Blade of Wrath is off cooldown, and I use a Blade of Wrath, that's going to overcap me on holy power. Now, if I have 4 holy power, and I have, well, let me get 4 holy power right here. I get 4 holy power. I'm sitting right here. Say I get an Art of War proc, and my Blade of Wrath comes off cooldown. I will not use that. I will Judgment right here. I'll Templar's Verdict. Then I will use my Blade of Wrath, another Crusader Strike, into another Templar's Verdict. And you noticed I did not use both charges of Crusader Strike because at 5, you know, if I use that extra charge, it's going to overcap me. So as long as you're following that priority of never overcapping while always spending, and if you are at 4 holy power using a Judgment to empower your Templar's Verdict, you should be good to go in terms of the rotation. Again, I will leave a link in the description, a little bit more in-depth look at it. And then when you're bursting as a Ret Paladin, what you're going to want to do is, in an ideal scenario, you're going to gain 5 holy power. You're going to Seraphim Wings, Divine Toll, Final Reckoning into a Templar's Verdict, Judgment, Templar's Verdict, Wake of Ashes, Templar's Verdict. Something like that. You're going to do insane burst damage. Now, if you don't get a Ringing Clarity proc, or there's not enough AoE people around you to generate that 3 holy power on your Divine Toll, you can skip the Templar's Verdict and go straight to the Wake of Ashes, Templar's Verdict, Judgment, Templar's Verdict. Something like that will put out similar bursts, but a lot of the time you will be able to get at least 3 holy power in arena. Like maybe you get a single Ringing Clarity proc and 1 AoE proc in 2v2, or you hit a pet in 3s. You can almost always get the Ringing Clarity on everyone. So the damage rotation will go something like that. But again, one more time, I will leave a link in the description to my burst guide. It looks a little bit more in depth. Now, what else do we have to go over? We have macros. So macros are something that's really important in order to get good at playing your Ret Paladin. You need healing macros, you need blessing macros, you need you know, some damage macros, just macroing badge with your offensives. Let me display my macros right here for you guys. So I have quite a few macros. As you can see, actually, I'm capped. I'm capped in my general, and I'm capped in my personal. So right here, I have my Final Verdict macro, and what this does is it is my Final Verdict and my Divine Storm in one button. If I just press the button normally, which is my my U right here, it will press Final Verdict, and if I hold Shift, it will press Divine Storm. And the rest of the macros in my non-personal page and my general page are just changing the not the tooltip, the icon. So my Shield of Vengeance has the Sacred Shield icon from back in the day, and Blade of Justice with Exorcism right here. Let's get into the actual useful macros. So right here we have the Seraphim macro, and what this does is it will change depending on my talents right here. As you can see, my V in the middle of the screen will change to Holy Avenger. Oh, hang on, I'm in combat with this guy I AoE'd earlier. Let me just run up to the stairs here. And I'm out of combat. Okay, so if I change to Holy Avenger, what that will do is it just changes the ability right here. So Holy Avenger and back to Seraphim. Boom, right there. Useful macro. I like it. You don't have to use it. My next macro is my burst macro. It just has my badge and my Saltwater Potion. If I'm in a BG and I have these, it will just use them all together. My next macro after that, and this is very important, especially if you're going to be fighting mages, is your cancelaura for your freedom and your blessing of protection. And even if you're not a paladin, these are important because you don't want to let a mage spell steal your bop. That would be not good. So what this does here is you drag it to your bar and just mine is over here on middle mouse button. And if you click it, bop right here, and click the macro, boom, bop is gone. My freedom, click it, freedom's gone. I don't have to right click the buffs off. Very useful. My next macro is a mouseover cleanse, and what this does is you can change your name to my name or player, does not matter. This macro here lets me mouse over cleanse either on the actual person themselves. So see how I don't have this guy targeted? I can just spam my cleanse on him, or you can do it on the unit frame. Or if you don't have anything targeted at all and you're not mousing over anyone, it will cleanse yourself. So I find this very useful for cleanse, especially in RBGs. If I'm just doing twos with people that I don't need to actually put their name in macros. And then after this, we're gonna follow the template for this macro right here, but we're gonna look at a different macro. We're gonna look at the, where is it here? Word of Glory. So this is the same concept. It will just function for Word of Glory as a mouse over, or if you're not mousing over anyone, it will use it on yourself. So I mouse over this guy, Word of Glory him, boom, perfect. Now, in terms of macros for your partners, it's very important to have multiple binds for sacrifice, for blessing of protection, freedom, stuff like that. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend only having mouse over macros for your partners in arena, because in the end, it will be faster just pushing a single button, getting the blessing of protection on them rather than mousing over to them and then pressing the bop or freedom, etc. So for myself, I have R is my freedom, and then I have 5 as my healer freedom, and then shift 5 for my DPS freedom. Shift 5 being over in this corner over here. And what those macros look like is right here. I have my DPS freedom, and I have all the names of the partners that I play with most of the time in here. And if I play with someone else, I'll just include them in another line, or I'll get rid of someone's alt up here. I'll put their name in it. But what this does is it will always target the freedom at that individual in particular. Sorry, I'm fumbling over my words again. And you have this same style macro for your blessing of protection, your blessing of sacrifice, and your sanctuary, and especially for your sanctuary, guys. If you can't handle the keybinds for any other of these blessings, at least get it for your sanctuaries, for your DPS and your healers, because dispelling CCs as fast as possible is the best thing that you can do with sanctuary as a Ret Paladin. It is why they are good in 3s. It's not the only reason they're good in 3s, but it's one of their best PvP aspects, is removing stuns off your healer or fears or silences. You know, everything that sanctuary does is really good. The next macros that I use, let's see, is the mouse over Final Reckoning. And what this does is it just pops my badge and my Final Reckoning at the same time. I also have a macro for my badge and Divine Toll somewhere in here. Yep, same concept, just badge, Divine Toll. But what my Final Reckoning does is it uses it at the cursor. A lot of the times people ask me, you know, how am I targeting an individual with Final Reckoning? I'm not actually targeting them. I'm targeting my mouse at them, and then I'm using the Final Verdict. Or I'm sorry, the Final Reckoning. So I have this guy targeted, boom, mouse over him, drop the Final Reckoning right on him. What it does is it gets rid of the targeting circle, and it just instacasts it wherever your mouse is. So if you're not comfortable using it, don't have to. It's fine. But if you like the quick cast, and you know you like League of Legends, you play League of Legends, you like the quick cast, there you go. Quick cast macro. The last macros that I'll be going over are my focus, shift, kick, and focus, shift, hodge. Basically what these macros do, let me get up here, is, yeah, I'll set this guy to focus right here. And as you guys can see, I don't have anyone targeted. My kick is off cooldown. I'm going to walk up to him, and I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to press my kick, my rebuke. Thing is out of range. Okay, this guy's definitely not out of range. Okay, what is going on here? Clicking on this guy. Okay, we're getting a weird error out of range. Honestly, this could be just some bug with the dummies. But basically, I'll show the example with my Hammer of Justice right here. So Hammer of Justice went onto this target when I held shift. Now these macros, you don't have to use them as the shift modifiers. You can have them separately binded as shift and then just normal on the button. It is totally up to you. You could also have Arena 1, 2, 3, Rebukes, Hammer of Justices. But my preference is when I hold shift, it will drop the kick, the rebuke, or the Hammer of Justice on the focus target. And if I'm not holding shift, it will use it on my primary target. That is the way I'm comfortable with it. If you guys want to copy that and use it your way, go for it. I will leave the macros in the description below. But yeah, guys, that's about it, I believe. Let me think. Oh, comps. Okay, I'll go over some comps for you. So a lot of people ask what are the best Ret 2v2 comps, and in my opinion, the best Ret 2v2 comps are with double DPS. Now, the best double DPS you can play with are likely casters. So something like Ret Ellie Shaman, Ret Boomkin, Ret Shadow Priest. Those are all really good 2v2 comps for Ret. If you're gonna play with a healer, Ret Holy Priest is probably your best option. Ret Disc Ooms really fast. Holy Priest provides great defenses for Ret. I'm sorry, did I say Holy Priest Ooms really fast? I meant Discipline Priest Ooms really fast. Holy Priests get to hold on to their mana a little bit longer. You know, Ret Arsham is okay, but if I was to recommend a healer, Ret Holy Priest. Another contender is definitely Ret Fire Mage. Mages themselves are tanky, pretty self-sustainable. You don't need to babysit them too much, and they have a really good burst and peels for you. So Ret Fire Mage is good. My personal favorite is Ret Survival Hunter right now. It feels like you can outplay so much with a hunter. Just constantly get resets in between your goes. But if you were to play Ret Ellie Shaman or someone with a little bit more sustainability, it's probably a little bit less scary in between your goes. In terms of threes comps, Ret Warrior is still top tier. It is very good. I recommend playing with probably a Holy Priest or an Arsham, something like that. Even an H-Pal is okay, but H-Pals now very, very fast as well. So yeah, Ret Warrior, Holy Priest, best option. You also have Cupid Cleave, which is definitely making a comeback right now. You have Ret Survival or Ret BM or Ret Marksman. All three versions of Cupid work fairly decently right now. I bet you we see some Cupid in the AWC in the near future because BM is making a huge comeback. In terms of healers that I would run with it, Holy Priest, once again. I think Holy Priests are taking over the top spot for Cleaves and for Hunter comps. Even Disc Priest is not that bad because your goes are really fast. And you don't last too long as Cupid, especially into spell cleaves. And now, guys, I believe that is all for the Ret Guide. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I've been AFK for the past week, and even most of March I haven't put out too much content. We are in that content drought, and I've had some IRL issues going on that I've had to worry about. But thank you for sticking around. I hope this guide helps, and I will see you all in the next video. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice at the last bit of the video. I can do this, I can complete it. Anyways, feel free to follow me at Twitch, twitch.tv/LvladenPvP. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.